Hey, Dad.
Hey, Matt.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's a bright and sunny day in Los Angeles. How about there?
Same here. Bright and
Good.
sunny. Not super warm today, but it's going to be really warm tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Uh, welcome to our listening audience. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Discussions with Dad, Faith, Blood, and the In Between. And as always, we want to remind ourselves and our listening audience of the core promises that Dad and I made when we agreed to do this podcast. Number one, even when we disagree, we will practice patience and love over certainty. Number two, we will tell the truth with care. And the final one, we will listen to understand and not convince, convert, or prove wrong. And both of us struggle with that one. And as always, this podcast reflects our personal opinions, which I think are sound, but we are not licensed therapists. And the whole point of this podcast was really to start conversations with people who we maybe disagree with often or even once in a while. And so, are you okay?
I'm fine. Sorry about
Are
that.
you going to survive? And so I will kick it off with my question of the hour, which is directed at you, Dad, but also I kind of am posing this to our listening audience. As Americans, what do we owe each other? And so that is to you,
Question.
kind sir.
That is the question.
That is the
Um,
question.
so I think, as always, coming from my Christian perspective, um, I think I would lean towards, as Christians, what do we owe each other? And not as Christians, what do we owe other Christians? But as Christians, what do we owe the world? Right? Because that's what really counts. It's easy to treat people well that treat you well. That's easy,
Okay.
right? So, I mean, and we had talked earlier a little bit about can you ever set aside your Christian beliefs? No, you can't. If you're a Christian, you can't set them aside. Because I could say the what I owe you as an American is based on respect, decency, commitment to rule of law, things like that. That if you're not a believer, you still owe people that, right? But as a
Well,
Christian, go ahead.
well, because you're referring to when you and I spoke off camera, we had the conversation, and when I first asked you the question, you said, "Am I using it just as an American or through the lens of being a Christian American?"
Right,
So, but now you said it differently on camera, and I so no, I asked you the question as an American. Not all Americans are Christian, and that I think
right.
that therein is the root of this conversation, and what we started in our last episode. We really do need to try and find some kind of um, common ground in whether or not it says the exact word separation of church and state. There is a clear expectation that anyone in this country can practice any religion they choose,
I agree.
and right, and so
I
you
guess for me though, I can't answer you as just an American, not a Christian, because you
well, that's
can't
a
set
fair answer. That's a fair answer. But
right.
what you said before was, as a Christian, this is what we expect. But then you're holding every American to the standard of what you hold yourself to as a Christian, and that's not
No,
necessarily
no, holding. I'm not holding any American to any standard. I'm holding myself to that standard. I can only tell you how I think I should treat you as a Christian, and that's how I feel about it. Now, whether there's people that don't feel that way or not, I can't answer that, and I also can't answer setting aside my Christianity, other than the fact that there's certain things probably as Americans. I guess I can't put myself in someone else's shoes. A non-believing American would treat someone differently than a Christian. I don't know. I can't say that. I don't know what to expect from a non-believing American. I know what to expect from a Christian, and what how I should treat you, no matter what, is how
okay.
I'm approaching it.
I hear that and I understand that, but we live in a country where everyone has the right to practice different faiths that come with different core values, perhaps, but we all have to abide by the ethical code of law.
Right.
When I guess the question that I'm really digging at is when and who gets to decide these laws, and is it only going to be because what it looks like for me here forward is whoever is in office and whoever can take the White House and get Congress, they will change the law to bend their faith or lack thereof if you think that the left doesn't have any.
Well, I think that first of all, it's really hard to change the law. They can do it. They have to pass new laws, but how people interpret it is one thing that might be causing some problems. And again, I can't speak for them. I can't speak for anybody but myself as a Christian, and I happen to be an American, but I'm a Christian first. I know how I'm supposed to treat everybody, and those values are spelled out. I mean, they're spelled out, for me. And do I always do it? No, but I mean, you know a lot of those values yourself, and I think that would it be a better place if everyone treated each other like we're supposed to? Yeah, it would be a lot better place. I guess if you're looking for a list of things that Americans should do or how they should treat each other, I can't come up with that list anything short of what I believe Christians should do, which is to me a more stringent list. If you look at the list like I just gave you, according to the Constitution, according to the Bill of Rights, according to all that, we owe each other a certain standard. But according to the Scripture, we owe each other way more than that, I think. Anyways.
Well, I mean, that's
I
something
can give you an
that,
example.
okay, go ahead.
Well, so as a and sometimes it steps over the boundaries of what you would think conservatism and progressivism is. It really does, because really when you look at pure Christian values, you're talking about bearing each other's burdens. You're talking about encouraging each other and building each other up, serving one another. You know how service is really, really important. Respect and honor, practical care. Jesus made it very clear you are to love your neighbor like you love yourself. And then other scriptures say you will only know they are Christians by their love. So if that's not being shown, then obviously they're not living up to that standard, and they're not living up to what they're supposed to be living up to.
Okay, so along those lines, but you're also someone who will then vote for a president who doesn't live up to those standards because the means the end justifies the means, like because he'll put the head of state of Israel, or he'll move it back to Jerusalem. You'll overlook the fact that he boasts about violating women.
Yeah, but
And,
what you don't understand, no one's going to live up to that standard.
oh,
Anybody I vote for, or whoever goes in the office, I don't care who it is, if they're a human being, can't live up to that standard. That's the whole basis of it. So using that as a reason to vote or not vote for somebody, I'll never vote. I would never vote then. If I put them to the test of what the Apostle Paul was, for example, guess what? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, and it hasn't happened since those times. In other words, there was only one perfect person, that was Jesus Christ, and everybody else, even Paul and Peter, all fell short of that. So using that reason for a Christian not voting for Trump, that doesn't work, because, I told you a long time ago, my faith is not in Donald Trump. For the reasons we've talked many times, I believe that he was the best candidate to fit closest to my beliefs. Not perfect, not even close to perfect, not even close to what we really probably need as far as a Christian is concerned. But
okay. Well, hold on. Let me ask you this then. If Jesus says we know people by their fruits,
right,
what fruits should we expect from someone that we're going to call an American leader?
well, it all depends if that person is becoming an American leader, or if he's going to be the head of the church or run the church.
No. The head of our country, the president of our country.
Yeah, again, are we holding him to a Christian standard, or are we holding?
No, no, because Dad, the whole point is this country is built on the idea that you don't have to be held to a Christian standard when we have the code of conduct as an American under the Constitution and the Bill
Then
of
why
Rights.
are you asking me to hold him to the person I vote for to a Christian standard? If that's the
Because
case, then why are you
you're
even
a
asking me
Christian.
that? I know, but why? But why would you care? Why?
I
Why would you?
Why would I
You see
care
what
that?
you see what I mean? You see what
No,
I'm
because I
saying?
think there's hypocrisy.
No, it's not
Like,
hypocrisy at all. I know
first
right off
take
the
the plank
bat,
out of your own eye,
right? And
and then
that's
you
right.
will see clearly.
That's right. And you're not doing that. You're not taking the plank out of your own eye. I'm saying I've got a plank in my eye, and I cannot judge another man based on the things he's done.
Oh, but then okay, so then why do Christians judge homosexuality in a different way than they judge their own sins?
They don't. A good Christian doesn't. It's all
You
sin.
don't, but they do. There
Well,
are people in the Christian faith that do.
we're going back to that same old thing that I've told you at
What?
least 1,000 times, is not everybody who calls themselves a Christian is a Christian. If you're gonna,
I
if you're
agree with you,
going,
Dad. But
you,
you have to speak to the American people. This podcast is hopefully reaching more than just the people in our community.
well, I would
And
tell them
so,
quit trying to be so judgmental of anybody. Quit trying to be so. We're not called to be that kind of judgmental. I can only tell you about homosexuality because of what I read in the scripture. That's what I can tell you, and I've made it very clear with you and with everybody else I've talked to about it that it's not my opinion; it's what it says. And if you put credence in what it says, then you have to think about it. If you don't put credence in what it says, then it's no big deal.
well, and that's with anything in the Bible.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. That's where we're at. When you
Right.
come back to that Christianity stance, it's I believe that that's the inerrant word of God. And if you don't believe that, then why should you live by it? I wouldn't live by it.
Okay, so then rather than where we're at right now in the United States, which is pretty much divided 50-50 between conservative, mostly Christian, mostly evangelical community and liberal progressive, and both parties have a real center middle that is bigger than the loud people on the fringes, but
I
not
agree.
getting the oxygen. So
I agree
instead
with
of arguing about ideology,
Wait. What did you say? Not getting the oxygen?
yeah.
Okay. All right. That's a nice way of
Do
putting it.
do you
Okay.
think? Well, I mean, there's been so much oxygen pulled to the far left and the far right, and those of us that don't find ourselves in total agreement with either side, and me much further away from the right than I am the left. But even there are things on the left that started to get really absurd to me.
Right.
Even now, people that are arguing and fighting, I'm not condoning the way that we got into the situation that we got into with Iran right now. I'm not condoning the way we got into it, but I also can agree and see that it was necessary, that this whole regime for over 40 years has been oppressing women. And the irony of the people that believe what I believe and have advocated for gay and trans rights and the BIPOC community and the underserviced and the indigenous are advocating for a regime that has kept women covered from literally their eyes can be seen, and that is confusing
Right.
to me. That
Well,
feels like
and the
hypocrisy too.
covering's not the bad part. It's the beating, the forced marriages.
Oh,
Uh,
all of it. I'm
yeah,
trying to.
all of it.
I'm not trying to get into that because we'll have a
Right.
whole episode about
No, I
just
agree with
that.
you. I agree with
But
the statement
my
you just
point
said,
is,
man.
when does what does a good leader produce? What do they are we producing division? Are we producing unity? Are we producing humility, or are we producing ego? Or is there compassion or cruelty? And honestly, and I hear what you're saying about the fact, and I've heard you over the years say, when in regard to voting for Trump, that essentially the ends justify the means in terms of being you're
I don't
pro-life.
like that. I don't like that part
Well,
of it.
but that's what it is, Dad, because you're advocating for pro-life and you're advocating for Israel and you're advocating for a couple of things that if you hadn't voted for Trump, they wouldn't have been the results that you got. But you had to deal with
There's
this
things he does
leader.
I don't like, as you know. There's things he does I don't like,
Right.
I really don't like
We'll
his
talk about
delivery
one
all
of
that
them.
much. Well, his delivery, I think his delivery stinks. I think there's a lot of times he shouldn't say the things he says the way he says them, even if it's the truth.
Do you
And
think
that
it's
goes back.
accidental?
No,
No. And so
no,
that right
no.
there tells me the type of leader he is.
Well,
So,
and that,
and
and
I
that,
don't want to go ahead.
but I think that he's sometimes like a shock jock. You know,
I know, but I don't look. And I said this in 2016 because I remember I used to listen. You and I both used to listen to the Howard Stern show, and I remember him going on in the 90s and talking about if he were president, this, that, and the other. And I remember when he said if I ran for president, I would run under the Republican because they would vote for me. Or I think he said they were stupid. They'd be stupid enough to vote for me. And then top that with the fact that he wanted so much to be famous. And I'm a member of the Television Academy, and I knew that he was vying for an Emmy. He wanted to win an Emmy so bad for that show, and I think he didn't win an Emmy for that show. But I
I don't
knew
know.
that the
I
Emmy.
really I didn't watch that show.
Oh, it was a great show. I loved it. I loved him on it because you said it. He's a shock jock. It's a personality. It's this big,
He
larger
has
than life.
shock jock qualities, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway,
And by the way, I don't listen to Howard Stern. I haven't listened to Howard Stern since 1988,
no,
87.
I call BS.
No.
I graduated in 1996, and you were listening to Howard
Oh, no,
Stern.
no, no. No, I never listened to him in the 90s. Never. When I switched,
Why?
never. Because
Why? Wait, why is
because
this the hill you want to die on?
because I switched in about 1992. I switched to even driving down to Orange County. I started listening to, and you remember it, is Hank Hanegraaff,
Yeah.
and then Alistair Begg, and then Greg Laurie, and that's when I started my walk in Christianity like I should have been walking. And I put Howard Stern to bed right away, and I haven't listened to him since. And
Well, you sure did laugh at his
oh, I know. Hey,
ridiculousness
I
a
was
lot when I was
100%.
growing up.
Man, I was 100% in the world. I was the king of sinners. I was the king of sinners, like Paul says. I was the best at it in the world.
Well,
But
you're
there's a
never not
change
going
that
to be a
happens.
sinner.
There's a change that happens in you when that happens, and it definitely happened. So yeah, I just want to be clear on that
Okay.
portion of it.
Okay, so we've lost. Let's get back on. Instead of talking about Donald Trump or Clinton or Obama,
Anybody, right?
what like where do you see the right and where do you see the party going after Donald Trump? And
I
where will
think.
that take this country?
Well, I think right now it's on the course that we all voted for. The people who voted for Trump, we all voted for. We want closed borders, right? We want all the illegals that are bad out of the country. And I've told you this many times. They need to work something out for the ones that aren't bad. And I don't know what that looks like. But once you have a closed border, and you send out the message to the world that you're not going to give amnesty to everybody, then you can work with giving amnesty to some people and not knowing that it's not going to be messed up later on. And I don't have a problem with that. If they're good people and they've got a job and they're holding, yeah, come on, let's. They've been here now for 4 years. Let's work with them, but let's get rid of the riffraff first for a lot of reasons, no doubt about that. That's where I see the party continuing in that direction. I think our stance on the world scene right now is perfect. We're not going to tolerate all of the what Islam is trying to do worldwide, what they're doing in Europe terribly, and they're trying to do here. We're not going to tolerate it. We're not going to tolerate Sharia law. Ain't going to happen. Not in this country. Maybe certain factions of this country, New York City, I don't know, maybe. I don't even see it happening there, to be totally honest with you. But we're not going to tolerate that. If you're a terrorist, you're in trouble, as long as a Republican's in office.
That's not the only issue that
No, but
and
those are
I
the two
agree with you.
issues.
It's a big issue. I don't disagree with you.
I think, Matt, I think it's the predominant issue coming in the next 4 years that we have to protect ourselves from all that.
Do you think it's that, Dad, or do you think it's hysterical evangelical Christians really stoking an idea so that it will serve another, you know,
Matt, hysterical evangelicals didn't do October 7th.
no, Dad, the two ideas can coexist. You know how I feel. You know, I know I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I don't know that it's the only thing that our president and leader should be focused on. I think that
No, I was
healthcare
only,
is out of control. I think our economy. By
I
the
was
way,
only,
this is a leader who said we wouldn't be in war, that we would have the Epstein list released within 2 weeks of office. I went back and looked. He said this 2 weeks of him being in office, the Epstein list would be released. It's still not released fully. We are in a war, and gas prices are higher or as high as they were with Biden.
they're
So
not
it's like,
higher, but they're climbing to it, but
right.
they're not
But so
higher.
my point,
And that'll be a temporary condition.
no, but you get, Dad, you get you get where I'm kicking the can, which is that both parties are doing this to us. When is the American body? When are the American electorate? And this is why the title of this episode is, what it is. What do we owe each
No,
other?
the title
Because
of this
I
app,
think, go
the
ahead.
title of this thing is turning into why are we dealing with Donald Trump? Because that's what you've taken it back to every time.
No,
Are
no,
we
no,
going
no,
to talk
no.
about how me and you are supposed to treat each other, or how Donald Trump is running the country, and who's going to run the country after that?
Dad, it sounds like
Think
you're
about
getting
that.
angry. Wait.
I'm not mad at
Wait,
all.
you're not
I'm just
listening.
saying.
You're not listening to understand. You're getting irritated that, and you're.
I
I'm trying to
understand
practice
that you want me
patience.
to say something I'm
No,
really not going to say.
I. If it feels like I'm baiting you, that is not what I'm doing.
Okay.
If we're going to talk about the title of the episode is as Americans, what do we owe each other? I think it starts at the top. I've said this every episode. I think leadership matters. I think it matters on a local level. And your mom, my grandma, is the reason that I believe this way, because she served the Democratic, Party her whole life essentially, and
Matt,
was. Go ahead.
I agree with you, but think about this for a second. You keep bringing it back to leadership and Trump and all this, and you bring
Not
it back
Trump.
there
Any
every time.
leader. Any
Okay,
leader.
any leader. But the grassroots problems of me and you treating each other out in the street has to change. That's what has to change. Because no matter what the leaders do, because you've already said both sides are corrupt and both sides are a problem. If we treat each other correctly on a day-to-day basis and day-to-day life, it will make this country 100% better right now, right off the bat.
I
And
agree with
that's
you.
what we need to
Okay,
talk
so
about.
wait. But Dad, this isn't my first rodeo. I know where I'm going with.
No, but you got bucked off really quick.
No, I didn't. No, because you don't understand that the connection is, okay, how you talk to someone in the streets is directly correlated to what you were able to see on social media and your algorithm. We brought up
If
algorithms within the first episode. So you're being
if we
pushed
allow
all of
it,
these, and
if we allow
and
it.
but we did allow it. This country has allowed it. We are at a point where,
That's the problem. We shouldn't allow it.
but we do, because social media permeates us, and you can't go anywhere without one of the someone like Rachel Maddow on the left, who's really playing into the narrative on the left, or someone like help me, Bill O'Reilly, or is he still
Sean
alive?
Hannity.
Sean Hannity.
Yeah, there. Because you like being on him anyways.
Oh, I think he's hilarious. There is no bigger cartoon of a Republican than Sean Hannity. I think he went to an Ivy League college. Everything that he says is for dumbed down and pandered to the lowest common denominator. And I'm not talking about the American people. I'm talking about I think people that watch his show watch it because they know he's ridiculous.
Oh no, I watch it and I don't think he's ridiculous at all. I
Why
like him
why do you like him?
because
Okay, just speak through the lens of what does he owe the American people? Don't you think he owes the American people the truth? You think he's telling the truth?
I think he is telling the truth, and I think he owes the American people exactly what he's giving them. And this is the divide that we have. You talked about Rachel Maddow. I wouldn't listen to her read "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star," and she couldn't tell the story straight. So this is the divide we're talking about, and that divide's going to be there unless we change it at the grassroots level and talk like me and you are talking, and talk about things that we need to do with each other that allow this to take place at whatever level it takes place at. and we can still survive and still flourish. And yeah, leadership in your eyes is not good. Leadership in my eyes right now is good. So that's a major divide that we have to talk about and try and talk through it. And I don't know. Again, this is a republic. It's a
A
republic.
democratic
It's a
republic.
democracy. Yeah. So the voting will, wherever the pendulum swings, if it swings too far to the right, like you're worried about, I guarantee you it'll swing back left again. And if it went too far to the left, like I was worried about during the Biden, I guarantee you it went right, and it went right in a big way. I heard something the other day and I could not believe it because totally forgot about it, and it was in my lifetime. Richard Nixon, Richard Nixon won every state. Every state. I mean, and you got to double check this because the guy that said this might be off, but he won a lot of them. Almost every state, I thought. But this guy said every state electoral college. This was a Republican president in 1972, won almost every state, if not every state, of the electoral college. And I thought, holy moly. And 3 years later, he was impeached.
But to Richard Nixon's credit, Richard Nixon resigned before they brought articles of impeachment to
Right.
him. He left the office because he knew, and that's the difference. That because if something like this would have happened, if something like what Biden or Trump did allegedly when they were looking into Ukraine and when they, neither of them probably would have stayed in office
Would have
if
survived.
we
Yeah,
if we
maybe,
were looking
maybe
at it
not.
through that kind of context.
I don't know, but I just thought about that. So wherever the pendulum swings, hopefully our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, our rule of law will allow the pendulum to go more down the middle. I mean, let's talk about.
But that's not
We
where
talked
we
about
are right now.
Rachel. Well, we talked about Rachel Maddow, and we talked about Sean Hannity, which I like Sean Hannity, and I think you went to two extremes. But then I turn around and I look at Bill Maher, who is a devout liberal. He says he's a liberal.
Yeah.
But he has more common sense than anybody I've heard from the
Well,
left.
Bill Maher resonates with both of us in different ways, but I don't know that the left wants to claim Bill Maher anymore because Bill Maher, like very few people on the left in Congress, are willing to reach across the aisle. In fact, I forget his name down in Texas who just beat out the other Democratic nominee, but people are upset that he beat her out because he was willing to reach across the aisle and she wants to say, no, we're going to cut them off. It comes down to two different ideologies or philosophies about governing. And that's where the left is split. One side believes we need to be able to reach across the aisle and we need to find compromise somewhere or we're never going to get anywhere. And the other side is like, we've tried to compromise. It doesn't work. So now it's all our way or the highway. And that's
Right.
kind of how the right has always been, but in a way that the right can unite in such a magnificent way and stay behind one person where the left doesn't seem to do that. I mean, there are the Bernie Sanders and there are the people that will come out and speak out against their own party on the left. You don't
Well,
hear
and
that happening on the right. And when it does happen, you become Marjorie
they
Taylor
vote
Greene.
that way. The left could call each other every name in the book, but they always vote exactly all the same. And then the right doesn't do that. You think they're all together, and boom, they vote each other
Not
down.
always. Joe Manchin didn't always was for a long time a holdout in many ways that hurt the left.
Right.
So I don't know that that's true. Keeping it under the idea of like how what do we owe each other? So when it comes to our legislative branch of government and the people that we elect as Americans, let's look at it through that lens. Like, what do we owe our community when we vote for these people in office? And one of the things that I think we owe each other when we vote for these people that are in office is where are they getting their money and their funding? Because and if you want to tie it back, we can tie it back to Middle East connections and which because it's not like Trump isn't getting money from the Middle East. It's not like he didn't get an airplane from the Middle East. You know what I mean? So
He didn't get an airplane from the Middle East. The United States government got an airplane from the
okay,
Middle East.
sure. But he bragged about getting it, like it was given to him
Well,
personally.
that's because he worked to get it for the United States government. Of course,
Okay.
he bragged about it.
Okay. So what? How do we know who to trust?
Don't trust any of them. I
But
don't put
take
my
their
faith
money.
in. I don't put faith in anybody. They don't. I like again.
Okay.
I picked
Here's
the
where you have to separate the Christian from the
I
question.
picked the candidate that best fits where my heart needs to be, based on my belief in Jesus Christ, not on my belief in Washington or Donald Trump or anybody. And that's just how that's the best path I can take at this time. Is it a perfect path? No. Is it a path that you like? Obviously not.
I
But
just I just no, it's not it doesn't matter what I mean I guess it does because the question I'm going to have you elaborate or clarify is when someone in the listening audience that either doesn't believe in God or believes in a different or has a different ideology or theology rather, when they hear you say, you know, you vote based on Jesus and they have such a hard time, and I hate to bring it back to Trump, but I'm going to bring it back to Trump because it's your favorite
of course
thing.
you, of course you are. Of course you
But
are.
dad, I mean, come on. It's kind of like how can you have a podcast in America and not talk about Donald Trump?
That's okay. I'm totally fine with that. Again, I am going back to the fact that I cannot set aside my Christianity and answer your question. I don't know how I'm supposed to do it any other way. I can't set that aside and say how am I supposed to vote if I wasn't a Christian based on no. It's not. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way at all. And I mean, my beliefs are my beliefs. I'm going to stand by my beliefs just like you stand by yours. Am I open to listening to you? Always. I'm listening to you right now, and I appreciate a lot of your points of view. And talking about it is going to be the other way. But the thing is, we have to start somewhere, and if it's not going to start at the top, then it has to start at the grassroots. And I promise you, even if everybody started treating each other with basic values of respect and decency, and not walk up and spit on each other or get in each other's face, and that would start so much and go so far
I
with
agree.
help.
However, the same people that are want that are also some of the people that are voting for people that are advocating for communities not to come together and for there to be division. I think.
Well, of
Okay, I'll
course.
give you an example. Okay, okay. How far do your values as a Christian and your morals as a Christian impede on the freedoms of a country that is meant to be safeguarded from that? So, for
They
example, my
don't.
being
They don't
gay.
impede at all. They don't impede at all. They do not impede at all. They,
Well, it,
they
it was
don't.
illegal for people to be gay at one point in this country. They went to jail. They were imprisoned. They were beaten. They still are beaten. But so I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I mean, for 50 years, there was a standard for women's reproductive rights, and then that got reversed. So
No, for 50 years out of 200 years, there was. I could say the opposite. For 200 years, there was a standard for women's reproductive rights, and in 1972, Roe v. Wade, that changed. Okay, all we did was go back to what was before. So, I mean, yeah.
right. However you want to articulate it, both are true. That's my point. How do we have a conversation with people that think differently than us if all they're going to do is get into office, fight, nothing is going to change in government and legislation? What has happened in Congress since Obama left? We've been in gridlock in Congress. I mean, to our own detriment. The left lost an opportunity. Well, before Obama left office, he wasn't allowed the opportunity to appoint a Supreme Court justice. The only president that wasn't, and the same person that did, I think it was Mitch McConnell that blocked that, was the first person to let Trump do it the minute he got into office. Or so I mean,
That was done legally, though, man. It wasn't done
but I'm just saying
underhanded.
when does how do we ever get past this tug of war, and how do we ever get past it being it is like the NFL. Whoever has the ball is going to score the touchdown.
You think that they're on offense? Well, I think our checks and balances are working better than any place else in the world, and that was obvious with the whole Supreme Court ruling against Trump and his tariffs. And here's a court that was supposedly packed by Trump, and they only listen to what Trump says, and blah 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 blah, and boom, 6-3, shot down all of his tariffs because it was rule of law that prevailed. I would hope that happens, not just to Trump, but to everybody, that our checks and balances work. And I think we just need to rely on our checks and balances working. I mean, right now you've got leaders in the Democratic Party disobeying and going against federal law. When you have a sanctuary city, that's against federal law. You had the whole thing in Minnesota. When you keep ICE agents from doing, and I'm talking about the leaders, I'm not talking about the people in the street. I'm talking about the leaders saying you can't bring ICE into this sanctuary city, you can't bring ICE here. That's a federal law.
But this is where I get really confused by conservatives, because conservatives want their cake and they want to eat it too. They want to have small government. I don't want the government involved in anything until it serves me. I don't want the government involved in my private life until I want that all women should not be to have access to abortion. I don't want the federal government into my private life, but I want to legislate who can be a man and who can be a woman.
Well, first of all, the overturn of Roe v. Wade did not mandate no abortion. The overturn of Roe v. Wade at the federal level, all it did was say it's up to the states. That's what it said.
Okay,
that's
so
all it did. There's no law saying there's a ban on abortion.
But right now on the books in Kansas, they are going after the trans community, and they're making them surrender their real government-issued IDs, driver's license, to go back to their gender assigned at birth, the gender they were born with. Okay? That's a state decision. What happens when, and the federal government used to protect that and now it doesn't. What happens? Wait, hold on. What happens when a federal law either supersedes or trumps a state mandated law, or vice versa, but the person in question is stuck in that state? What do you do if you are a woman who's in jeopardy of losing your own life and your baby's life, but you're now in a state that has taken back the right and revoked the right for a woman to have any kind of even medical intervention during a birth, or maybe not even a birth, maybe a premature?
No state has done that. No state has done that. Not
I don't.
one.
We're gonna.
No
I don't.
state, you can look it up. No state has done that.
Don't think you're right. I think Oklahoma, and there were 2 deaths. We'll circle back on it.
Yeah, you can circle back on it, but it's still if the mother is in danger,
Dad. No, I think you're wrong. So we will definitely circle back. And speaking of circle back, this is a perfect opportunity to circle back on last week's episode where
you didn't let me answer you.
Oh no! You cut off. You can't wait. Hold on, Tony Schaefer, Dad. Hold on. You cannot. When someone has a perfect segue like that into something, you can't shoot it down. You should have let me get my thing out. And then
terrible segue.
It was a wonderful segue
because it was leading.
Beautiful, perfect. No, there's never been a better segue.
I have to answer this. Hopefully, in Kansas or whatever state you're talking about that has a problem like that, what happens is, by rule of law, people sue people. It goes to the state Supreme Court. Then it makes to the federal Supreme Court.
Dad,
our checks and balances are.
Dad, when Cherie was in the hospital giving birth to your granddaughter, my niece, you had to go in there and you had to make a decision. You know what I'm talking about. So you tell me what family wants to be put in that circumstance, especially because if they're in the state, they're probably, and they're in this position, they probably don't have the means already. Because the people, this is what I've learned from experience, and I have a lot of friends who I am referring and thinking about in these moments.
You have friends?
I have several.
Okay, good.
That have been in circumstances where they've needed to terminate a pregnancy. And they had access to the best doctors, the best healthcare, and they had money. When you don't have that, and you're stuck there, and a doctor's in front of your face and saying you're going to die and your baby's going to die, one or the other, and you're in a state now where that is for the doctor even that are the doctors that are afraid to make that call without fear of them losing their medical license and being sued and malpractice and all of that. What father or what mother and father or grandfather in your case, who's going to really make that decision and then have to fight it up the Supreme Court for 6 weeks when the mom and the baby are now gone? It's just absurd that we live in a country like that, to me.
First of all, you're talking about, you always bring up scenarios that are less than 0.01%.
If it's any percent, it's worth bringing up.
It makes a big difference. It makes a huge difference if it's less than 1%. Huge difference. And secondly, there's still things in protection places for stuff like that. And your theory goes all to pot. No way. Your theory goes all to pot because most abortions don't take place with people with money. Most abortions take place in areas of most poverty, and you can look that up because that's
no, Dad. I'm not going to let you. Hold on. First of all, you're talking to me to win an argument. And that frustrates me because we could have segued past this. I tried to table it and I tried to say we'll circle back because I don't think you're right about the facts at all in terms of how many babies and mothers have died since Roe versus Wade was overturned. And the other thing is you're trying to convince me of something based on things that you believe, based on algorithms that you were shown. I don't think those facts are true. And I will tell you that every wealthy person that I know, including Trump and probably all of his wives and probably his daughter too, had abortions because they all went to private prep schools and they all went to Ivy Leagues and they were all having sex and it was like they took a pill and it was easy and no one knew about it. So maybe they weren't reported.
You're making assumptions that you don't know.
You still are you. What's good for the
No, you look
We're
up and
tabling
see
it. We're tabling it.
See where more abortion clinics are at.
We're tabling it.
In the hood or in the nice places.
Why do you think that's true? What? Let's go down. Let's ask that question.
That's a whole other podcast.
No.
I know the whole thing, son, because that's a whole other podcast.
No, you threw something new into the conversation when I tried to table it, so I'm going to speak to it because there's an audience listening, and I know that they're steaming right now because you brought up figures based on exactly what I'm trying to prove. If a woman who has money needs an abortion, she goes to her general practitioner and they have a private conversation and there's a private separate transaction that happens. So she doesn't need a clinic. She doesn't need to have a clinic in Beverly Hills. They don't need to have an abortion clinic. The reason there's a clinic in the hood, as you said, is because those people don't have health care. They don't even see a general practitioner once a year, maybe once every 10 years. So if they are pregnant, and especially in the Black community, women lose their babies because they don't have access to health care and because they didn't have the proper prenatal care. That's why those clinics exist in those neighborhoods. So we can look at that deeper. And if you think that I'm wrong, you can bring those facts and we will have, when we talk about being pro-life or pro-choice, which is coming up down the road, we can look at that. But I just want you to be very careful when you say something like that because there are actual factual reasons why clinics are where they are.
There might be reasons. I didn't question the reasons. All I stated the fact was there are more clinics in low income areas than there are in rich areas.
I would agree with you because rich areas can afford to go to a fancy doctor and be referred.
And that may be so, but the fact is there's still way more clinics in low areas than there is rich areas.
That doesn't mean that poor people are having more abortions than rich people. That's not what that means. Well, and that's what you're implying. And I think it's wrong.
I'm not implying that. I'm just telling you that's the fact.
Well, when you say it the way that you say it as a fact, you're leaving out the opportunity for intuition and knowing that people that have money have access to things that people that don't have money for. Would you agree?
That's a given.
Right.
That isn't even need stated.
So just because
that doesn't mean more rich people do it than poor people, or more poor people do it than rich people. Wasn't even bringing that into the conversation. I'm just letting you know.
You're implying it by saying that there are only clinics in poor areas.
No, I'm not. There's more clinics. I said there's more clinics. Never said there's only.
Okay.
That's your words.
We're done with this conversation. Now I'm going to have a really terrible segue and go back to what I tried to segue to 15 minutes ago. Sorry about that, listening audience. When I misspoke about what the royals believe. They don't believe that they are a direct descendant from Jesus. I got several private messages about Jesus being an only child, and obviously, you and I have read the Bible. I know that, but
He's not an only child.
well, so that's what I was going to let you have the conversation. But let me just finish by saying, because I did look this up, and the monarchy's authority is traditionally framed as by the grace of God, meaning that the king or the queen rules with divine legitimacy, which is, I think, kind of what you said last week when I brought it up, but I don't know if it was exactly. But so the concept is known as divine right of kings, but it's not a biological descendant. Now, you want to take over the Jesus had brothers and sisters?
Well, yeah, we just read that. Me and you just read that last week. And it even went so far as to say that Joseph and Mary did not consummate the marriage, this is in the Bible, until after Jesus was born.
A year, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably 2 years. I mean, who knows? Well, it was 2 years before the wise men, as they're so called, actually came. People think they came right to the manger in Bethlehem, which is not true. If you read it very carefully, you'll see that it could have been up to 2 years later, and they came to the house where he was at, not in the manger where he was at.
But then
And
we
it
wouldn't have a
probably-
way in a manger.
we wouldn't have that song, but yeah, we wouldn't have "We Three Kings from Orient Are," that's for sure.
True.
But anyways, that's neither here nor there. The fact is, James, the first apostle that was killed, and was killed by Herod, was the brother of Christ. It's very clear in Scripture that he's the brother of Christ, and he had other brothers and sisters too. Now,
So
if we
King
need to-
Charles could be a direct descendant from Jesus Christ.
No, not from Jesus Christ. He could have similar DNA if one of Mary and Joseph's other children had kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Not
Probably
impossible.
not, but it's probably not true. So I
Probably very
apologize.
unlikely. Number one, the DNA is very traceable because the Jewish people are so well informed about it, I guess, knowledgeable about it, I guess is the word I should use, is they can not only tell that you are a Jew, right?
Yeah.
But also they need to know what tribe they're from. And
Right.
and Jesus was from the tribe of Judah. So if he was from the tribe of Judah, all his brothers and sisters were from the tribe of Judah. So you could trace that. You could see where the line of Judah went. And they know where it went. And they will know even more so when the 12 tribes are all together again at the end, which is going to happen too, I believe. And at
So
least that's what the Bible says.
So not a direct descendant, but they
No.
do believe that they're divine. What do you think about kings in general, rulers that rule a kingdom?
Well, there's
I mean,
two
obviously
things.
the monarchy is kind of for show, right?
Yeah. Well, there's two things that I think about kings. And again, it's a biblical concept that I think about. Number one, in Kings, the book Kings in the Bible, they didn't have kings until there was judges. It was judges first. And Israel wanted a king. And God pretty much told them, you want a king? Here's your king. And it was Saul. Didn't work out too good for him. None of the kings worked out too good for him. Matter of fact, if someone asked you a quiz ever on a game show that he was a good king or a bad king of Israel, 95% of the kings in Israel were bad. So if you just say bad, you probably have a pretty good chance of getting the question right because there was very few good kings. So that tells me right now, a
Do you
king
think
is,
do you think Benjamin Netanyahu is a good steward of Israel?
yeah, I do.
You don't think he's guilty of anything?
I know he's guilty because he's human. I guarantee he's guilty.
No. I don't mean like from a sin standpoint. I mean from a leadership standpoint and making decisions that weren't sound.
Well, I bet he made some mistakes. He'd probably be the first one to tell you he made mistakes.
Yeah.
I've been to Israel. I've been to the Knesset. I've met with people in the Knesset, and I'm sure that they're human. They make mistakes, and I'm sure they're almost as divided as we are a lot of times. I saw people protesting in the streets of Tel Aviv. I saw people protesting in Jerusalem.
Oh yeah, I think that that's a large part of the American, especially the younger generation. They don't realize what a democracy Israel is. I mean, the fact that they have Muslims and all different types of walks of creeds and race and religion
Oh
on
yeah,
in their parliament is a testament to what a democracy looks like in the Middle East, and it does and can exist. Uh,
yes, Matt. I would say they have a better form of democracy. Well, I can't say that because we're a republic, but they have at least the second best form of democracy in the world. I think it's better than the parliament procedures how England does it. It's got its flaws too, no doubt about it. But it does allow for every faction of life to be involved, and people don't realize that there's many Muslims that live and work every day in Israel. Every
yeah.
day they don't go in and out of the borders. They live there. They work there. There's many of them that get along side by side, and not have a problem with it at all.
Right.
And people don't realize that, but they
I
don't
mean,
also.
well, I think it's the same way that people in my party can't disassociate that a Christian can be good or bad based not just because they're a Christian. Not all Christians are bad. Not all Christians are good. It's like all Jewish people, all Muslim people, all Hindu people, all atheists. Not all atheists are bad. Not all atheists are good. You can't form an opinion based on not knowing someone. In my opinion, you have to get to know someone to know their heart and know. And I'm
Yeah,
not talking from a Christian standpoint because I know what your take is on that. I'm speaking,
right.
tying it back together to like, what do we expect from one another? I expect, I expect people to at least meet someone and be open to where they're at because we've all lived life and we all have different perspectives and we all have things that have caused us trauma and harm and hurt and
Right.
pain and joy and excitement and curiosity, and to think that because someone is from a different country or has a different complexion or has a different theology or ideology, that they should somehow be treated as something other than what you would want to be treated. It seems like that's who I'm looking for in a leader.
Exactly. Well, good luck finding that because I haven't seen a leader in my lifetime that fulfills that 100%.
You
So,
just shot down my hope. And that was so anti, that was
and
so
that was a
anti.
great. And that you know what? Let me. Where's your soapbox? I don't see that soapbox there, but it was
I'm not
close.
on I'm not on a soapbox. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. As an American, what do we owe one another? And that's a great title. And of course, you're really good at coming up with these.
That's
And
what I just answered that.
I love it. I love it that you come up with these titles. I love it that you structure this really good for us because I wouldn't be good at it at all. But
Thank you, Dad.
I think what the question should be, and
Okay.
I would really like
So
to
you
see
just
that.
told me, great job doing all of this work, but let me tell you why you messed up.
No, you didn't mess up at all. I just in my pea brain, I'm thinking instead of saying as Americans, what do we owe each other? As human beings, what do we owe each other?
Well, but then
As
here's where you
human
get
beings,
into I agree with you, but I think that there would be a lot of people in my party that would say call you a hypocrite then, because you can't advocate for war and to take down a regime at the same time as demanding excellence in humanity. And you and I used to get into this fight all the time when I was much younger and a lot more idealistic, in that I believe that there should never be war, and I don't think we need war, and I think every diplomacy, and you should be able to sit down and have a conversation just like you and
man.
I are doing. And now, of course, I'm 50 is approaching and I see things a lot different based on lived experience and
You're gonna be
understanding that
50.
I'll be 50. Not for a
Okay.
while, a couple years, but it's closer than 40.
Way
I
closer.
love that all of that, and you focused on my age and not, and you know my age because you are responsible for me. What was your takeaway of what I
No,
was
I know
saying?
exactly what what you're saying. It just um, being an idealist is not being hypocritical because you have these thoughts
No, I
and that's
didn't say
good.
that. I think you have to be idealistic in your 20s. If you're not, you're never going to get anywhere because
Right.
you can't not have hope when you're just starting out. In my opinion, it's harder to hold on to hope when you that 40 threshold, like you start seeing things. Well, you're treated differently on the job force regardless of what industry you work in. I think there is age discrimination and you feel things differently, and also your body does hurt in ways that it didn't hurt before. And so there are just honest things that you come to terms with,
Right.
and part of that is settling down, and part of and I don't mean like settling down like giving up. I mean like you're settling and you're easing in. Easing is a better word than settling. Easing into who you are and who you want to be, and you look at things from a different perspective and think these are things that I don't like about myself and I have the power to change them.
Right.
And so when I look at, and I'm not going to bring his name up again, but and I could use the leaders of the last couple elections. There's no one in there that I think is the embodiment of what my grandparents were, and like my grandpa, my mom's dad, my grandpa Smith. He was someone who was an elected official, and he was a leader in his community, and he just embodied the American dream. He really worked hard. He came from immigrant family, and he worked hard, and and he started his own business, and he made money, and he got elected into the county commissioner, and tried to make changes in his community, and he embodied the. I don't see that anymore. And if it doesn't exist, and if we're only grooming poli scientists to come out and to like weaponize algorithms and social media, then where are we going to be in 10 years?
Well, no, I agree, but the whole thing falls back to what I believe, and and the times are getting worse, and that's biblical, okay. And again, I don't say we're rearranging
The deck
chairs on the
chairs.
Titanic. No, I don't say that. We're called to do what we're called to do, but we know if we believe what the Bible says, the times are getting worse. And as far as why there's wars and why I abandoned that a long time ago is because I come from the premises that there's good and evil in the world, and I think that fight is always going to be good against evil. And I think there's some people you can't sit down and talk to when they're screaming death to America and death to Israel, and they attack unprovoked on October 7th. They attacked unprovoked. Then something has to be done about that.
And broke a ceasefire, by the way. People conveniently forget that they broke it. There was a ceasefire
Yeah, a huge
when they,
ceasefire.
yeah.
So if you just that concept of good and evil, good has to triumph over evil. I believe eventually good will triumph over evil. Well, I know it will.
From a
And it's
biblical standpoint.
from a biblical standpoint, exactly.
That's what you believe.
And so that's my hope. That's my hope. But we're not called to discern ourselves with every minute detail. What we are called to do is to act more like Christ. And that's what I work for. Long ways from it. Probably never achieve it, but that's my hope. My hope is to convey that to another human being, or to treat another human being better than they got treated before. You know.
Okay, so we have about a minute left. Let me ask you this question to close us down. If you were
Okay.
speaking to someone who, and you've had conversations with several of my friends who are atheists, and you've had lovely conversations, and I know you love them. If you were speaking to an atheist, not trying to convert them or to convince them to come to Christ, but to have a conversation about how we could both be, you and them could both be good stewards of America and the Constitution, what would you say?
Okay. And I'm not trying to convert them. I would say respect and love each other. Whether
Okay.
whether you're Christian or not Christian, if I respect you and I love you, and even go back and say just the golden rule and don't bring Christianity to it, but treat each other as you expect to be treated. I think, to me, if everyone did that, you'd never have a conflict whatsoever of any kind. But again, it's so much deeper than that, Matt. And hopefully we'll get into it. Hopefully you'll allow me to get into what happened with the 12 tribes of Israel and the 12 tribes of Islam, because it's spelled out perfectly. You read it a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago now.
Well, I think
You
there's
read
a way that you can continue to have conversations and reference and using contextual things that are happening in present day. I think
Right.
that there's always a space for that. All right, I think that's fair. So you said love
Respect
and
love.
love and respect.
And love. Love and respect.
All right, Dad.
I will
Well,
never hurt you if I love you and respect you.
it is with love and respect that I thank you for another vivid
That was a
and
good one.
vibrant. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder how our audience thinks when we talk about this was a good podcast. We did a good job today. Nobody loves each other more than love your
right.
neighbor and respect them.
And respect them. Yeah. Respect. And
All
love.
right. Well, thank you all for,
Hard to
for
do.
tuning in.
Easy to preach. I know. Don't call me
Yeah.
a hypocrite. Easy to preach. Hard to do. But I will continue to do it.
All right. Well, I love you, Dad.
I love you too.
Thank you all for listening. We'll catch you next time.